There's a khilaf of whether or not Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim is an ayah. In some qira'at it is, in some it's not. In the qira'ah that I learned, it's not from the Fatiha. It's considered a mark between the surah. So that was Imam Malik's position, radiallahu anhu. So, and the hadith in al-Bukhari indicates that قسمت الفاتحة بيني وبين عبدي فإذا قال عبدي الحمد لله رب العالمين. So in al-Bukhari, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the hadith al-Qudsi begins al-Fatiha with alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. So that was one of Imam Malik's proofs. But in any case, there is a khilaf about it. Imam Shafi'i, who considers it an ayah and considers the prayer invalid if the Bismillah is not recited. So there's a khilaf about that, whether or not it's from the Fatiha. In any case, if we begin with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, we always begin the Quran, فَإِذَا قَرَأْتَ الْقُرْآنَ فَاسْتَعِذْ بِاللَّهِ. If you read the Quran, seek refuge in Allah. So Allah tells us to seek refuge in Allah, مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ, from the accursed shaitan. So awada is to ma'ad is a place of refuge. So we're seeking refuge with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from shaitan, because shaitan wreaks havoc on our species. Now, when we say a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, shaitan is that word. There's a difference of opinion. Does it come from shatana or does it come from shata? So is the root sheen ta noon, or is it sheen ya ta? There's a difference. Is it from fa'al or is it from fa'lan? The difference, if it's shaitan with a shatana, then it has to do with the one who's mub'ad, he's far from Allah, or he distances others from Allah. He causes others to become distant from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spiritually. If it's from shata yashitu, then it becomes, the meaning is halaka. So it's either the one who's halik or the one who yuhlik. And both are true. The word rajim, which is interesting also because rajim is one of those really interesting words in Arabic that can either mean fa'il or maf'ul. It can be an active or a passive. Now, when it's fa'il here, which is a rajim, it could be marjum, the one who's stoned, or it could be rajim, the one yarjumu. So in other words, he's the one that does it to you. He makes you accursed by following him. So when you become a minion, so it could have both meanings according to Imam al-Akbari. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So Allah begins, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. This is basically saying that all praise belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. And He's Rabbil Alameen, the Lord of the worlds. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. So that lam there is lil istihqaq. Praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, which is why whenever we praise anybody in the dunya, we say mashallah, because we're acknowledging that it's a creation of God, and we're acknowledging that whatever good came from that person is actually really a good that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought into the world. So all praise goes back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And whoever we praise, ultimately we are praising Allah. So it's an awareness that all praise is Allah's alone, because this is His creation. So whatever's good in His creation is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim is, if you believe that the Bismillah is an ayah, then it's repeated. Imam al-Ghazali was Shafi'i, so he clearly saw this as being repeated. But one of the things Imam al-Ghazali says is there's no replication without meaning. In other words, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, and then the Bismillah is the ism that, and then the Rahman or Rahim are attributes. Rahman is fa'lan and Rahim is fa'il. These are hyperbolic forms in Arabic. Rahman, fa'lan, is more hyperbolic. In other words, it's a stronger sense than Rahim. They're both hyperbolic forms. What hyperbole is a rhetorical device in which you use to really emphasize something. So if you say Allama, that's hyperbole. He's not just a scholar, he's a great scholar. So Rahman he's not just merciful, he is really merciful. He is compassionate. And so these are both hyperbolic forms which indicate the immense rahmah of Allah. And the reason he says that this is repeated after Rabb al-Alameen is because it is from His mercy that He brought everything into existence. So His rububiyyah is an attribute of His mercy. The fact that He brought everything into existence is from His rahmah. And the greatest rahmah that He sent to us, for us, is the Prophet ﷺ, because it's guidance. So His guidance is the greatest rahmah. He gives us, after His creation, He created us, but then He provides us with guidance. Now, Maliki Yawmiddin, Dr. Cleary translated as ruler of Judgment Day. That's one way, and that would actually be probably Malik, which is the Warsh recension. And there's a few others. So you have Malik and Malak and Malik and Malik. Malik is the possessor, and Malik is the sovereign or the ruler. What's interesting is these two forms both indicate something about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So not every Malik is a Malik, and not every Malik is a Malik. So the reason for that, if you have a king doesn't necessarily own everything in his dominion. If he's a tyrant, he can take whatever he wants. But if he's a benevolent king, then he owns what he owns, but then he's a caretaker. He's somebody who is responsible for his subjects, but he's not going to steal their wealth. Whereas the Malik, he owns. And so Malik and Malik indicate that Allah not only is the sovereign of that day, but it's all His dominion. There's nothing that does not belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which means He cannot oppress His creation. There's nothing that He can do that will be warranted giving God the name of oppressor. It's impossible for God to oppress, because you cannot oppress your own possessions. If you own something that and you say you burn something, like you take a coat and you burn it, and somebody sees you burn it, they say, well, why are you burning that? And you say, well, it's infected, and I have to burn it. So you're explaining to him, but he really has no business asking you if it's your coat. You can do what you want with your own property. So that's the point of Malik and Malik, that he is both. Yawm ad-Din, the day of judgment or the day of requital, in his larger translation, he translates it as the day of requital. This is the day when debts fall due. So Deen and Dain are related. It's the day when there's a reckoning, an accounting. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. It is you that we worship, and to you we appeal for help. So when you have iyaka na'budu, when you put the what would normally be in the maf'ulun bihi position, because it's na'buduka. But when you say na'buduka in Arabic, it doesn't create it doesn't eliminate other things. So you could say that somebody ya'budu Allah wa ya'budu shams. He worships Allah and he worships the sun. But you can't say iyaka na'budu wa shams. Iyaka means that only you alone we worship. So when you say iyaka na'budu, it means you alone. It is you that we worship and no one else. Wa iyaka nasta'in. And to you we appeal for help. فَإِذَا اسْتَعَنْتَ فَاسْتَعِنْ بِاللَّهِ. Like the Prophet ﷺ gave his advice to his cousin Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu. When he was very young, He told him, if you're going to seek help from Allah. Which doesn't mean that you don't seek asbab, but you understand that it's only Allah. Even the asbab are from Allah. So you have to understand everything is from Allah. So it's you alone we help. So even when we're seeking help from creation, we know that it's you that has facilitated for us help from others. He's the one who gave you victory. Allah gave you victory, and He gave you the believers to help you. But that's from Allah. So the help that the Prophet got from his companions was from Allah. So only seeking help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. Guide us to the straight path. Istiqama is uprightness. So this path is the path of uprightness. And then sirat al-ladina an'amta alayhim غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. The way of those you have graced, show us the straight path. The way of those you have graced, an'amta alayhim, you've blessed them, you've graced them. Not of those on whom is your wrath. So the ghadab of Allah is on them. Al-maghdub alayhim, the ghadab is on them. Nor of those who wander astray. So these are the two ways of going astray. One is with knowledge, so you know what you should be doing and you don't do it. And that's why the Muslims are in such a precarious situation, because so many Muslims, I don't know any Muslim in the Muslim world when I lived there that doesn't know the hadith ar-rashi wal murtashi fi an-nar, that the one who bribes and the one who takes a bribe they're both in hell. I don't know anybody that doesn't know that. It's a very well-known hadith. You could almost say it's ma'lum min ad-din daruratan. It's not, but you could almost say that it is, because so many people know that hadith, and yet there's so much of bribery. So that's when you incur the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is when you know what you should do and you don't do it. Whereas the dhalleen, those who are astray, those are people that don't know, and they're just wandering. In the verse in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the Prophet was dhallan fahada, like, didn't he find you dhallan? It doesn't mean that he was astray. It means that he was seeking. That's why he was going into the ghar of Hira and doing these things. So don't make us from people that don't have guidance, that might be looking for guidance or are just astray. So these are people like, for instance, traditionally, a lot of the scholars put the religious categories in there. I don't think it's a good thing unfortunately, some of the translations actually put between parentheses, other religious traditions and things. It's not really, I don't think it's a good thing to do in a translation, because that goes under commentary, and it just makes it look like, it takes away the umum al-level. It takes away the umum al-level, which is the general statement. Those are the two ways people go astray. If you want to see it archetypally, that it's in all religions, and it's certainly in the Islamic religion. There are people that know the truth and they don't practice it. Those are maghdub alayhim if they continue on their way and don't make tawbah. And then the dhalleen are people, they're ignorant. There's ignorant Muslims that just don't know, and so they don't practice what they should learn.